Hi, and welcome back to CVC Interviews. My name is Joyce Vaudreuil from Vernon, and tonight's local story about local people and local activities is a group of folks telling us about Solarize Vernon. We have three guests with us tonight. First, we have Shamay and Tim. They're from Earthlight. And we also have Jeff, and he is on the Vernon, chairman of the Energy Improvement District Board for Vernon. And they're here to tell us more about the Solarize Vernon movement and what it's about and what we can expect. I think we're going to start with you, Jeff. So what role did the Vernon Energy Improvement District Board play in bringing the Solarize Vernon?
The board originally interviewed an employee of Smart Power, which was the marketing firm handling Solarize Connecticut. We did our research on Solarize Connecticut and found that 85 towns have joined the program with over 6,500 homes obtaining solar arrays. So it certainly looked like it would be a winner for Vernon, so we moved forward. Two board members, myself and Leslie Campolongo, attended two training sessions, one of the sessions was to interview the 6 contracting firms that were doing the installation in Connecticut, one of which was Earthlight. We took that information to our board meeting where we passed a resolution to recommend to the Vernon Town Council that they join Solarize Connecticut. I made a presentation to the board, and that night the board unanimously voted to join Solarize, which we're all very pleased. In joining the program, we then found out that we were selected to have Earthlight as the local contractor to handle the whole process, which includes site analysis all the way through to installation. We were very pleased with Earthlight. They were professional in all respects, and so it was a natural fit, them being in Ellington. So at this point, the board is now assisting in the marketing. We're attending some of the meetings and doing whatever we can to get the message out to the Vernon residents.
Have you, did you have Earthlight do an inspection at your house?
As a matter of fact, I did, because I was very interested to see what the process was, and B, what are the potential savings. And I was very impressed with the rep who came out. It was a very easy process. Didn't really take all that long. Provided the information I needed, and I was extremely informative meeting. The key ingredient, which we'll learn about, is how much energy you can produce from the sun at your particular location. And if your location in your house, and there's various factors that count, allows you to develop a certain amount of energy through the panels, you can do very well financially. The solar panels have a 25-year approximate lifespan, and the savings from the cost of your electric bill pays for the solar panels over time, and then you have all the remaining years to do very well. So it was a very impressive procedure, and I highly recommend it for anyone.
What impressed you most about Earthlight?
What impressed me the most?
Yeah.
In the 6 contractors that we saw when we went to the meeting, Earthlight provided the best warranty, and that's critical because when you're going to have solar panels on your roof for 25 years, things can go wrong. They're local and they will fix them. Also, they'll make sure the production stays at the correct percentage and doesn't over time shrink. So if you're buying solar panels, you want them to function at a certain level. Also, and I don't want to steal Earthlight's thunder, but they are providing the biggest payback, so to speak, to Vernon. They are donating making a $50 donation to Kids Safe, a local charity, for every home installation. They're also, for every 12 residents who join in, they're providing a 5 kW system to the town, which can eventually go on a town building to save the town money. And they're also doing education seminars at the senior center as well as the school system. which to me is tremendous because that just raises the town's awareness of critical clean energy issues, which are very, very important, in my opinion. And the raising of the town's awareness to me is really the most important factor, as well as, of course, getting solar panels.
Excellent. So I think this would be a great time to start with you folks from Earthlight.
I think Jeff can keep talking. This is great.
He is a big fan of yours, I see that.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're speaking for a town, you really need to be excited and do your due diligence.
Yeah.
As a Vernon resident, I appreciate that.
And
Thank
just
you.
to volunteer, usually I do insurance, but for this I'm the volunteer, and I'm more than happy to put my time into it.
We greatly
your
appreciate it.
efforts.
I have seen the signs around town for the different for the different sessions, information sharing. So it is pretty visible out there. So Shimei, Tim, you folks tell us about you and what are your roles at Earthlight?
Well, I'll just tell you a little bit about Earthlight. Earthlight's a 10-year-old company now, family-owned business in Ellington. We started out as a little residential store selling light bulbs and stuff, and we kind of morphed into more energy conservation. We now do energy conservation for the utilities, for Eversource and UI, going out to commercial businesses all over Connecticut and changing out lighting and different of their equipment for energy savings. That was the launch pad, and then about 5 years ago, we got into the solar market. We felt like we kind of waited for a while till the prices came down, and so we waited, and then 5 years ago we jumped in, and we've been doing residential solar and commercial solar for 5 years now, and it's really taken off, and it's really a great market here in Connecticut. The incentives are good, and the tax credits are still good. So I'm the CEO, my son Sam is my partner, and I have 6 children, 5 of them are boys, and 4 of them right now are in the company. So we're electrical contractors. We self-perform everything, so we don't depend on hiring electricians to come install our stuff. We do the whole sales process. Shimei does the marketing, and we take it from A to Z, and then we do the monitoring for the next 25 years as we monitor your systems and make sure that it's all performing properly. So.
Excellent. So Shimei, how long have you been there? You're doing the marketing, so the presentations?
Yep, so I'm newer to Earthlight. Before I was at Earthlight, I was actually working for Solarize, Connecticut. So I was working with a lot of the installers in that setting, and I got an offer from Earthlight to come and join their team, and I'll say that they, at the Connecticut Green Bank, which is where the installer review sessions are held, there's a gentleman there that usually does the reviews who always spoke very highly of Earthlight and the installation work that they did. And getting to know Tim and Sam over the years, I was really impressed with their commitment to quality and making sure that the projects are done right. And if there are any issues, that those get responded to very quickly. So not everything is going to go perfectly all the time, but I think it's important that if there is an issue, that you can count on someone to come out and remedy the situation. And so.
Absolutely. It's the follow-up, because nobody can guarantee anything, so you want to make sure that customer service is there. I am impressed to hear that you do your own electrical work. I think a lot of folks don't understand that there's a lot of electrical involved in that.
Yes.
And it's not just a stick it on your roof and plug it in somewhere. So that's great to know that you're in-house. That's a very important part of it. So that's good to hear. So can you tell us more about your work with Solarize campaigns, and particularly Solarize Vernon? So it's part of Solarize Connecticut, and that is under the umbrella of a state-started program? Or how did that come about?
So Solarize Connecticut began as a partnership with the Connecticut Green Bank. And they are charged to increase adoption of renewable energy here in Connecticut. And then Smart Power is the nonprofit that's dedicated to renewable energy and energy efficiency campaigns. So all of the work that they do is really focused on that. So when the program started back in 2012, there were about 900 homes in Connecticut that had solar. Solar has really just exploded. I mean, I think Tim mentioned it. He, kind of waiting to see when solar was going to makes sense economically, and that has been over the last 5 years. So we went from 900 homes in Connecticut to like 25,000. So there's been a huge adoption, and you probably noticed, driving around, you see the solar panels on people's roofs, see it along the highway. It's becoming very popular, but a lot of it is, the technology has been around for a very long time. It's only recently that we started bolting it to our roofs, but we have very high electricity rates here in Connecticut. So
Yes, I've noticed that. 2 years in, and yes, I can guarantee I did notice that difference, but that's okay. I do keep up with it. I'm a self-proclaimed tree hugger, and I did notice that at about 5-7 years ago, the return on investment, which is very important as a homeowner, dramatically dropped. I mean, it was at 18-20 years. Now it's at like 8 to 10 years. So
Yes.
the return on the ROI, that's the bottom line for a lot of folks, and so that's very enticing. Also, solar energy has now surpassed all other energy sources as the most gains last year of any other energy source.
You've been doing your homework.
Long before I even met you guys. So
Good.
as I would have liked to have done it years ago, but when it was first popularized, it was the weight. I lived in a very old house in central Massachusetts, so I was very concerned about that. But as you said, you waited and you got in at a great time. So how do you see private industry, local government? I mean, this seems like a very good partnership, but how do you see that working together to move towards even more clean energy?
Let me just back up a minute on the Solarize. You might be thinking like, okay, what is it all about though? What is the value versus just not having a Solarize program in your town? So Solarize was basically put into place to try and bring savings to the homeowner.
Right.
So by doing a Solarize campaign, the town can basically help us with the marketing, and we can kind of zero in on one town, and so we can cut our marketing costs and cut our customer acquisition costs. That's one of the biggest costs, is trying to go out and find customers and get them in and educate them and show them what we can do. So by doing the Solarize program, when we did our responded to RFP, we all bid into the program at a certain price per watt. So it's a lower price than normal to the regular public. So we're able to give some of that savings back by zeroing in and doing a focused market. That's kind of what the whole Solarize campaign has been put together, to try and drive down your soft costs,
Right.
The hard cost is coming down on its own, but the soft costs, your marketing, all that kind of stuff, that's why the Solarize came
Very
into
good point.
fruition,
Very
so.
good point. I did see you had a lot of people show up at some of the events you've hosted in the area. On your webpage, a lot of pictures of folks. Because I would have attended, but I was here that night. So I'm so glad you folks are here. I want to talk to you.
That's why I really would encourage everyone out there, if you see this video, is to come to a workshop. We're going to be doing workshops once a month or every couple weeks over the course of the next 3 months.
When you say workshop, so it's not just someone standing up there telling you exactly what to do. You're going to be able to interact with you folks and get some questions answered.
You can answer that, Shemay.
Yeah, so I mean, to add to Tim's point, and a part of the value of the Solarize campaign is to get information about solar, in partnership with a nonprofit. So it's not, it kind of takes some of the pressure of having a solar consultant come out to your home, who is going to give you a proposal. It's a way to get the information in a more relaxed setting, but really and what Jeff was saying too, kind of just raise the awareness and the education level for everyone in the community about the different benefits of solar and why it's worth, at least considering if it makes sense for your home.
Well, that leads me to my next question. What makes a home great for solar?
Well, obviously the best home is a nice south-facing roof with no trees.
There's a lot of trees in Connecticut, Tim.
There's a lot of trees. So east-west roofs will work fine. Solar, obviously south is the best, but we very rarely do put them on the north side for a good reason. But a few trees shading the panels, they will cut down the production a bit, but it's not beyond doing. We can, we calculate, we got computer programs that will generate the actual production of the system based on the pitch, the azimuth, all these things that we put into the computer. So we can tell you if a tree is affecting it, if it's not. what your particular home will do. We come out and before we get to your home, we actually do a layout of your roof. Before we get there, we know more about your home, more about your roof than probably you do, because we know the angles and we know the pitch and we know all this stuff. So we come to your home with a basic proposal. We sit at your kitchen table, we review your bill, and we look at everything, and we say, this is what it looks like, this is what we could do, and this is what it would cost, and this is what your savings would be, and here's the different financing tools, leases and loans and cash. And so we do all that right at your kitchen table. And
But people can now do this after getting a general presentation from you folks.
Yeah.
And this way, now that they have the general information, now they can get very specific to their
Exactly.
address.
Yeah.
the workshops are basically give you the general education, talk about the pitfalls, the benefits, and then if there's still interest, then we have you talk to one of our counselors there at the meeting and maybe schedule a meeting, maybe not. He'll talk you through it. This is what I got. Sometimes right at the workshop, we'll pull up your home, we'll look at it. We'll say, well, if you don't want to get rid of those trees, or we could probably do something here, or how about would you consider a ground mount? A lot of times the trees are shading your roof, but you got a big backyard. So we can, the ground mounts aren't a lot more money to do a ground mount. And so sometimes we'll suggest that. So it's all kind of like a one-on-one, it's a customized thing. Solar is not a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah, and again, just driving around, you can see that.
Yeah.
I've seen them on garages, back buildings. They don't necessarily have to be on the house, depending on how the house is facing.
It's a very unthreatening process. It's just the information you learn about your house is just, I found to be very interesting, and to see it on the laptop and go through the data of your 12 months energy use versus the availability of the sun power, I just found it very fascinating. So don't be threatened. It's not a hard sell in any way. It's just showing you options, and so it's great.
And you did mention driving around a lot and looking at homes with solar. And unfortunately, there has been some big national companies that have come in and slap panels up this way and that way, and it looks like a crossword puzzle on your house. We don't do that. We take, the aesthetics are very important to us. We have nice looking panels, and it's always in a nice symmetrical fashion. We try and stay off the front of the roof if we can.
Sure.
But if we do put it on your front roof, it's going to look good. It's not going to be, like I said, a crossword puzzle type look, So.
How do you find the residents so far? Are they pretty familiar with solar and its benefits?
I think it's mixed. I think I've definitely seen the education level around solar increasing over the last couple of years, but there's still a lot of questions that people have about it. I think one of the hardest things to understand about solar is some of the legislative policies that actually make Connecticut a great state to go solar in.
Oh yeah, I wasn't going to let you leave until you explain those, okay? I definitely wanted to hear. Tim's like, oh, everybody wants to talk about the money. I think there is a lot of confusion. As a homeowner in 2 different states that were pretty solar friendly, I can tell you that there is confusion on, all right, what are the benefits? We hear people talking about the benefits, and you can get deductions and things. Is there something you can share with us now that we can start to think about? So before we meet with you folks or go to a workshop, what can we start thinking about now as these benefits?
So one of the biggest benefits that we have in Connecticut is something called net metering. And what that allows a solar provider to do is to take a look at your annual usage. So Jeff had mentioned we want to, what is your electrical usage over the course of a year?
Not just a month.
Not just a month, right? And we want to know very exactly what are you using, because there is fluctuations, from January to December. You'll probably use more in the summer months when the AC is on. If you have a furnace, you'll probably use more in the winter as well. April, November, April and October tend to be kind of low usage months. But we want to look at all of that information and get a very granular understanding of what are you using over a year's course of time. And then we want to design a system that can offset 100% of your annual energy demand. So that's our goal, or to get as close to that as possible. And the idea with net metering is that you're going to be connected to the utility grid. And essentially what that allows you to do is to use the grid as a similar to like a battery. So any electricity that you're producing is going to feed your home first in Connecticut, and then if there's excess production, that goes out to the grid. And as it's going out to the grid, you're getting a credit on your bill for every unit of energy that you're sending out. So every kilowatt hour, they put a bidirectional meter on your home. So it can track the electricity that's going back to the grid. And then at nighttime or on cloudy days or if there's snow on the roof, then you can pull back from the grid and you can use the kilowatt hours that you banked, in the summer months typically when you're producing more than you need on that particular day. And so that one-to-one exchange works out very favorably for people in Connecticut. There's also a rebate available from the Connecticut Green Bank.
Okay.
That's based on what your home production is and what your system size is. There's also the 30% federal tax credit, which is it's a credit, so it goes against what your annual taxes are, so it's not a deduction. So whatever that amount is, you can get that back at the end of the year when you file your taxes. So all of those things work together very nicely.
And for the roof-mounted ones, I didn't mean to get back to the hardware, but these things just pop in my head.
Sure.
As a homeowner, I'm always concerned, what if we have those windy days? We had the really horrible storms recently. Who takes care of the routine maintenance on the physical hardware of the equipment? Is that something that needs to be maintained?
There's very little maintenance. The rain basically washes it off. If you lease a system, it's owned by a leasing company, and they're responsible for things that happen to it if anything happens to it. If you purchase it, you're responsible for it, but there's virtually nothing that's going to go wrong with it, unless, of course, you have a tree or something fall on it, then it's a homeowner's insurance problem.
Right.
Being a homeowner's insurance agent, it's just part of your house, and it's covered for just like the rest of the house.
Good
so
to
whatever
know.
happens to the roof, the solar panel being part of the roof is covered just as the house would be covered. So it's protected.
So you touched on leasing. So there's a couple of different ways to get solar for your home. You don't have to give exact numbers, but there's
Yeah.
different ways. So you can lease it.
Yeah,
Is there an upfront cost if you lease it?
there's no upfront cost if you lease it. Leases have kind of gotten a bad name over the years because a lot of the bigger national companies came in, got people into leases, but sometimes they had escalators that before you know it, the prices escalated up over 20 years. So we like to go with a fixed lease if you need a lease. The reason to go with a lease is if you don't have maybe a tax appetite. If you're a senior citizen or something, you're not paying a lot of taxes, so that 30% ITC tax credit is not of big value to you. Then you would maybe go with a lease because there's no upfront money and you just get a lower electrical rate each month. If you do pay a lot of taxes, then going with cash or a loan is effective because in 10 years you'll have the system paid off, and then you got another 20 years of basically free electricity as you do go into your retirement years. So it's very individual where you're at in life. If you don't want to go get a loan or if you don't have the cash, a lease is great. You can save a few cents a kilowatt hour. But we like to do a fixed lease if we do a lease at all, because now you're locked in for 20 years. You know that even if utilities raise their rates, which they do, you're going to be locked in at such and such a rate for the next 20 years. So
I see. And that's part of the workshop, I would imagine, get more
Yes.
information
Yep.
on that.
And the lease is transferable if
Absolutely.
if you sell your home.
Well, I think that was the fear some of us had, that we were planning on selling our home in 5 to 10 years, and the leasing at that point wasn't a great help to us because we knew right away, we're not going to be here. As it turned out, we were gone in 2 years, so that would have really been a problem. And we had a lot of trees. They did do a pre-visit. They used Google Earth, and we had already cut down 2 trees. So when they got there, the guy said,
where'd those trees go?
he says.
Yep.
So it's great. I'm very happy to hear that entire communities are getting together with this and helping to bring in more, reduce the cost. You guys have been around a long time. You got the town involved. This is a win-win, I see, for everybody. What are some of the things that people should be aware of, though, when they're talking about solar for their house? What are some of the things that they want to consider?
Probably what we kind of just talked about, where they're at financially. Do they have a tax appetite? And then probably the second thing is, are they going to be in their home the next, for quite a few years to recoup the benefits of that? What condition is the roof in? You know, if they're going to need a roof in 2 years, you certainly don't want to put solar panels on top of that. So you got to take that into consideration. Ground mounts, if you want to put something in your backyard or not, you know.
I would say also there is a huge variation in the quality of the panels that are available out there. So when you're thinking about trying to reduce your electricity costs over the next 25 years, you know, a lower end panel and a higher end panel might perform very similarly at the beginning, but you know, will probably perform drastically different in 20, 25, 30 years. And so I think, and over that same span of time, you also have electricity rates that are going up, right? So you want to make sure that if you're investing in solar, that what you're getting today is going to be what you're getting 20 years from now, and it's not going to be a huge change over time in the ability of that system to produce your electricity for you.
So the panels aren't where you want to pinch pennies.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
And that's all discussed and shown at the workshops. We show you the different qualities and how it's good to invest in good stuff.
So we touched on the incentives available, specifically Solarize Vernon. What are the advantage? We talked about the incentives of the 30%, the $50 being donated. You said there's a slight reduction in cost because you're saving the soft money, the marketing.
Yeah, I think the price that was bid is maybe 10 to 15% lower than it would be for market rate.
Oh, excellent. How long are these good for? These incentives good for?
The program runs through September 15th, I believe, for Solarize Vernon. And at that point, we'll add up how many systems we've sold, and at that point, we'll calculate how many KW worth of solar panels we give to the town of Vernon. And
Excellent.
so,
Which building, have you talked about which building in Vernon yet?
Yeah, Mike Picaro, who's been the town administrator, has been very important in this whole process. We have had some discussions and there's some ideas, but you wait to see how
where you're
many
at.
arrays you have. And
Sure.
But he's got a lot of good ideas, and he's got some carports, school building, but wherever there's going to be some good places to put them.
There has been a lot of incentives available to people to help them to go solar, and part of that was because the panel prices were so high. So
Yes.
as the panel prices have dropped, you know, a lot of the subsidies have dropped along with them. So the 30% federal tax credit is good through 2019.
it's going to start going down 5% in the end of 2019, so 2020.
Yeah, so that, you know, if you are thinking about solar, now is really a great time while all the incentives are available at the full amount. The net metering too, it looks like there may be some changes down the line where it might not be that same one-to-one exchange. So
Yeah, the net metering, the state legislators just passed a bunch of laws this last session, and things are going to change in the next 2 years. The whole incentive process is going to change. Net metering is definitely. The net metering right now is 1-to-1. If you're paying 20 cents per kilowatt hour, they're going to give you that credit on your bill. So it's going to go to a system where basically Pura is going to tell us what they're going to pay back to you. So it's not going to be one for one in about 2 years.
So is that, it's going to be treated more like a commodity where the prices?
Well, they're going to say
Gonna
instead of
change?
giving you one for one, if you pay us 20 cents, we might only pay you back 16 or something. But they're going to set the rate. So the whole idea is now's a good time to go solar.
but anyone that goes solar before that gets grandfathered in
Yeah.
at the one-to-one
Well,
exchange.
there you go.
Yeah.
So
All right, so that one's going to be around but different until 2020. The other incentives are September of 2018. So you'd have to like sign up for getting it installed by September?
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
if you want the Solarize Vernon, the town offered discounted rate is through September, mid-September.
Okay. So we've talked about the workshops, we've talked about the different incentives. Do you have another date? Well, I guess by the time this airs, will that be a July date for Solarize? Okay, so we have Solarize Vernon, we've got your July 12th date.
Ice
gonna
cream,
be ice cream there?
social.
I could do some ice cream right about now. So is there anything that you want to make sure we talk about before we wrap up for today? Did we catch all the points?
I believe it's August 1st. The senior center in Vernon's going to have a share information kind of session with Earthlight presenting. And what's the date on the ice
July
cream?
12th.
July 12th, so there's 12th. And I know there's some big events coming up in Vernon, the July in the Sky and National Night Out, so I'd be pretty confident in saying there may be an Earthlight table there, so
Yes,
if
there
you're
will
out
be.
at in the
oh, I
big
remember.
events in the town, you might be able to stop in and get a brochure, set up an appointment, just get some information, and so they've been great at attending town events. And,
Excellent.
so they'll be out there.
Do you still have your store open? Can you go in there to buy your light bulbs and things?
No, we
Darn it.
after a couple of years, we realized we're competing with Home Depot and
Oh, yeah.
Lowe's, and so we've moved on from that. But again, I want to echo what Jeff said. I want to encourage you to please come out to the events, or just pick up the phone and call, and we can send someone by. You can stop by our office on West Road in Ellington, next to Bowles Motors, and talk to one of our people there. Educate yourself. It's very low. It's not high pressure whatsoever.
No.
We want to educate people. We want people to see the advantages and see if their house is a good candidate. So.
Excellent. Shmay, Tim, Jeff, thank you very much for your time tonight. I appreciate it as a host, but also as a Vernon resident. Your webpage, which we'll have displayed, was very informative to me in general, so I encourage folks to do that. So thank you again for joining us for CVC Interviews. My name is Joyce Vaudreuil from Vernon, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.